Hello there, boys and girls, and all of those in between. My name is Maliena Bitchcock, and I want to welcome you to Bitch Talk with Bitchcock. And I'm very excited because it's our first day of Pride Month, everyone. Happy Pride! And I'm so excited that we're celebrating with my very, very special guest all the way from Portland, Oregon. She's beautiful, she's fierce, and right now she's glowing in pink, the one and only, the Kitten Kiara.
Hello, 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 hello. Coming to you live from Salem, actually. Yeah.
Oh, shit, girl, you're so well known in Portland. That's just where I assumed you were from.
Well, I go wherever the paycheck comes through, wherever they call me.
You gotta love it when it rains money, honey.
Oh, honey, I wish it would rain more often.
I hear that. Now, speaking of, how are you surviving quarantine and all the craziness that is going on in the world right now?
Well, I am pretty lucky because I live alone, so I kind of like keep my sanity like that way. There's no one like around to like bother me or like anything like that. So I keep it pretty low key, and I'm just here in my place, surviving as it is.
Well, girl, I hope you're over there stocked up on toilet paper and makeup just in case.
Oh, honey, I'm always stocked up on toilet paper, let me tell you.
Well, perfect, bitch. I'm excited to have you here because you're actually one of my favorite queens that I've actually worked with because you're very creative and very genuine.
Well, thank you. I like to push my creativity, and I like to inspire people the same way they inspire me, so that means a lot. Thanks.
Absolutely, bitch. Well, are you ready to dive into the bulk of this interview?
Oh, absolutely.
Well, perfect, whore. Well, ooh, sorry. I say whore like you call your grandma whore.
It's okay. My grandmas have been dead for years, so.
Well, girl, let's start with why don't you tell me when you actually first started playing with drag?
Well, it's something that's been going on pretty much as far as I can remember. I was always one of those kids who was just like really into like color and like dressing up and like living a fantasy. So um yeah, my mom was an Avon sales lady growing up, and she would have been really, really good at like selling stuff if it hadn't been for me. So I was like always just trying to like get into her stuff in that way. But the catalyst for me like getting into drag started on a Halloween, of course, because you've got your Pride queens, you've got your Halloween queens. It's kind of your like gateway into drag. And
Right.
it was probably about 12 years old when I went to a Halloween party um, thrown, by like some local peeps in my hometown, and yeah, I dressed up as Angel from Rent.
Oh my God, yes! I fucking love it.
Yeah, it was great. I was obsessed with the movie, so I totally just got a costume together like last minute, and begged my mom for that little bob wig that they sell at the during Halloween season, and yeah, I spray painted some like boots that I had to match my outfit, and I went out and I turned a party, and it's been history ever since. That like that set off a tradition of me getting into drag every single Halloween. So like started with Angel. The next year, I dressed up as like a fairy. The year after that, I went as like Katy Perry from the California Dreams video.
All right. I
Yeah,
love
so
it.
yeah, it just got bigger and better every year until I could like, you know, legally go out to the club and like try and make my thing happen there.
Well, I love that. That's actually what I was curious is at what point did you actually go from being like Halloween queen that did it once a year to say, fuck this, I want to do this more often and start going to the clubs or the bars or even just showing up so you're seen.
Yeah, well, I mean, there was a time when like so after this like doing it once a year thing was happening. When I moved out of my parents' house at 18, I had already graduated high school. and I was like ready to be on my own. When I finally like got my own apartment and stuff and was living like by myself, I had no reason not to get into drag every day. So and I was a bedroom queen, a really, really serious bedroom queen for that tender age of between 18 and 21. Just trying to like perfect my craft and trying to develop what would, you know, become this face and the style of that, because I knew that I wanted to make an impression when I was finally able to hit the club, and I wanted to look good. I wanted to feel like I like belonged somewhere, and I didn't want people to question that. So I was like, I'm gonna make this happen.
Absolutely, Queen. And let's just say today you look so stunning. I mean, look at this Queen, pretty in pink with a pink skin tone, girl.
Oh, thank you, thank you. Yeah, this color, this whole painting myself a different color has really served as a really creative inspiration and a really like big outlet for me lately, because I take a lot of inspiration from like a fantasy kind of level, and I want to be otherworldly when I'm in drag, you know, not of this earth, as it were.
I love that. And I think that's kind of fun to think about drag because drag, you can really go any direction and wanting to go with more of a fantasy character that's really unique. And I think it's really playful and it plays off of being able to really change your look up. Like today, you have that pretty and pink look. I kind of want to call it like alien Barbie because it's so pretty, but at the same time, it's a little edgy.
Yeah, yeah, and that's like precisely what I'm going for. I want to present something that feels familiar, you know, enough for people to like get comfortable around, but is also like a little twisted and, you know, makes them think like I never would have thought of that. Like that's cool.
Absolutely. So tell me, what was actually the evolution of finding your drag character?
Um, the evolution just came about with me getting comfortable with like being out in public in drag. When I turned 21 finally, and my birthday hit, like I just went balls to the wall and was like constantly out, you know, trying to find places where people like me were. You know, I was new in this area. I had like I'm originally from Southern Utah, and I moved to Oregon, you know, before I finished high school and stuff. So I was pretty new into the scene, and like I didn't really like know anybody or like where to go or like, you know, just I had no idea that there were spaces for me. And so like the second I turned 21, I was just like doing all this research to find out, you know, who was hosting like what parties and like where the queer people were, you know. And my drag character came about with me like socializing in drag at events to just meet people and to try and establish myself in this community.
And I mean, that's what you have to do, especially when you're first starting out, is just show up, dress up, and be seen because it's really going to catch people's attention. And eventually people are going to be like, I need to know who that bitch is.
Yeah, exactly. I get a lot of questions from younger folk about like what or people who are like starting drag. They're like, what do I have to do to get booked, or what do I have to do to get noticed? And honestly, I tell them, I'm like, you know what, like your priority shouldn't be getting booked. Your priority should be making connections and like meeting your community and establishing yourself in the community.
A fucking men, girl. Preach it, sister. Preach it. Because it's true. A lot of these kids, they watch Drag Race. They also or maybe familiar with their local drag scene and think, well, I could do that and I should get paid the same amount of money and I should become just as famous within overnight. But it really takes time to perfect your art, perfect who you're going to be as a character, and really get at the same level of those bitches who've been doing it 10 plus years.
Yeah, exactly. And honestly, like when I was kind of like in training as a bedroom queen, that was kind of my mentality, was the fact that like I knew that I was going to be entering the Thunderdome, as it were, you know, that I was going to be surrounded by people who have been doing it for a long time and who already know what's up. And, you know, I wanted them to welcome me with open arms. I wanted them to be impressed. I wanted them to think like, okay, here's a girl who really knows what's up. And it's worked in my favor a lot. And I'm really grateful to have the relationships I do now.
Absolutely. And just curious, how many years have you actually been a performing queen?
The minute I turned 21, I just turned 24 this past May, so that's 3 years. Pretty sure. I was never good in math, so.
Yeah, public school.
Oh
So,
yeah, for real. And most of my education came from Utah, so it's garbage, mama.
oh, girl. Well, you know, I am kind of curious. Tell us a little bit about the drag character that we all know as the Kitten Kiara.
Well, it's kind of funny because the kitten kind of came out recently. Was more of a recent development. When I started drag, I knew that it was what I wanted to do, but like I didn't have a persona per se. It was just me like creatively expressing myself. And the kitten developed as time went on. Like when I very first started, I just went by a feminized version of my boy name and just kind of like let that lead wherever it was. I was just like, you know, the name isn't important. What is important is what I'm out here doing. And yeah, the kitten came about as a sort of like playfulness and willingness to express my femininity in the later years as I got more comfortable with that.
Okay, I love it. Now, tell us a little bit about your personality in drag once you put on the hair and the makeup. How does your personality kind of change? And do you think it's a major change from everyday life?
Yes and no. Like in my daily life, I would say that I'm a more introverted for sure. I like to keep to myself. I mind my own business. You know, I'm not a rowdy bitch. But as soon as like the makeup comes on and like I'm in the zone, like I am like full party mode. Like I just want to have fun. I just, you know, want to make sure that people are having a good time. I want to feel beautiful. So it's really just like in my daily life, the volume is at like a soft like 2, you know, 3, just like a little ambient, and then in drag it's like we turn it all the way up. It's like it's at full capacity. We're at max volume there.
Absolutely. As long as you don't turn into a spoon when you get in drag. You know what I mean when I
Spoon?
say a spoon? You
No,
know,
what's a spoon?
you like to stir the pot.
Yes. No, I wouldn't say that that's me, but I would say that there are a lot of girls who do that.
I'm sorry, I've been dying to use that pun forever. And
I
girl,
love
if I
that.
start calling you a spoon, I'm just saying.
Oh my goodness. Shady. I'm gonna look out for that. I'm gonna look out for that.
Girl, I love it. Now, what was it about drag that actually made you want to do it?
um it was, I mean, that's kind of a tough question because I've never not wanted to do drag, honestly. As a kid growing up as like a brown queer person born into this like Catholic family in like a predominantly white Mormon country, I felt very like ostracized and isolated, and I was always searching for my people, my tribe, as it were. And so from a really young age, I did a lot of research about like queerness and gay people and like what was going on in like big cities, you know, that I couldn't get to because that's where my people were, you know. So if you can just imagine this little like 8-year-old, 7-year-old in the early 2000s, like looking up fucking hanky codes and you know, like discovering this whole like this whole community that was kind of like changing, you know? So all of the information that I was learning was like already pretty outdated by the time that like I had like stumbled upon it. But it was important to me because it was the history of a culture of people that were like, that I was a part of, you know? So it was, from a really young age, it was important to me to learn um, about queerness in general because they were out there, you know, and I just needed to find them. So drag has always been a an interest of mine, like from the get-go.
I hear that, and I'm kind of the same. It's kind of weird because I feel like I always had an attraction for drag as a kid, even when I probably shouldn't have known what drag was. And, I remember seeing things like Bugs Bunny, and then my first glimpse of like Tu Wong Fu, and kind of these glimpses of where it kind of, like even the movie Tootsie was a big one for me, is where those glimpses where it made it okay for you to kind of dress up and feel your oats and kind of feel your own glamour. And I remember looking at my dad once, and he did not like it when I said this. He asked me what I wanted to be when I grew up. And I said, I want to be like one of those beautiful men that dress up like women. And let's just say my dad from East LA, who it would be in his 70s right now, did not like that answer.
Yeah, I feel like it kind of like shocks adults to hear that their children want to be like openly and outwardly queer. At least where I grew up, and at least back then. Speaking of like Tu Wong Fu, that was a really big like catalyst in me discovering drag. I remember the very first time I saw that movie. My mom put it on. We found it at like a pawn shop or something, and my mom was like, "Wow, I haven't seen this movie in a while. Let's go check it out. I think you'll probably like it." And like the whole time that we were watching it, I just remember her like being like showing an open disgust towards like the gayness of it, and her being like, like see how like ostracized these people are. Do you see how much like people are like against them? I hope that that's not something that will ever happen to you, so I feel like her showing me that really was her trying to like warn me and be like and be like, don't do this because I can feel that that's what you're like going for. But obviously it had the complete opposite effect. It was just like it was the complete gateway, seeing all this drag and its total majesty just had me totally enamored and wanting to do it and be it and achieve that.
No, and I get that. That was how I was. I mean, I was very young when I first saw Tu Wong Fu, and I thought they were women on stage, and I'm like, they are so beautiful. And my dad just like, they're not even women. Stop it. And I'm like, okay, whatever. But the thing that you mentioned, it's funny that she showed you that thinking of more like to discourage you, that saying that they're ostracized. But I don't think they were ever ostracized. In their perception, they were scared to be I can't say it, sorry. They were scared to be treated differently. But in the long run, when people found out who they were, they supported them, they stood up for them, and accepted them for who they were. And I think that's the message we take from it, is you can be true to who yourself, and there are going to be people who accept you for it.
Yeah, definitely. And that's totally what I interpreted from the film too, is the fact that like, where I am currently like may not be the most accepting of just who I am, but if I take the time to look not only within myself but around me, I'm bound to find people who will accept that.
Absolutely. Now, I am kind of curious, do you feel like doing drag and having that within your life has brought a certain amount of confidence for you in your everyday life?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's honestly, there was a time where I felt more comfortable like in makeup than without, because without it, it kind of like strips you of the armor, and you're just left a little like raw and really vulnerable. And there was definitely a time when I was afraid to be vulnerable and to just to show myself as I was, because like here I am without any of the accessories, without any of the things that I feel make me beautiful. And you know, I'm just open to judgment from everybody, and it was really scary. But doing drag and being in it and gaining the confidence and building relationships really pushed me to like feel just as confident without it.
You know, and I hear that, and I've also suffered from people almost only kind of expecting or appreciating Maliena. And then when I take it off, it's like, well, what's he worth? What does Jamie do? And you know, sometimes it's like I have to put on the garb to actually feel that I would say at least at one point in my life, I had to put on the garb to feel important about myself. I think doing this for 15 years, though, I have been able to say I know what part of that power of putting on the wig and the garb and the makeup does for you. And you try to just hold that power with you in your everyday life, even if you don't have, let's say, your armor on at that moment.
Right, because like and I think that once you do drag long enough, you kind of just have a realization that like that confidence within you, like it's there inside you no matter what, even when you're not in it. And you kind of just you get used to it, and you accept that, and you let that like fill you up and you know, propel you forward.
Absolutely. Now, you've told us a little bit already about kind of who you are as a drag queen and what kind of looks we are to expect, because you definitely look like a fierce fashion queen. I'm guessing you probably watched lots of episodes of America's Next Top Model.
Oh yeah, that was I was a big top model not growing up. I like started from like the very beginning, and like always kept up with it every year because it was such a cultural zeitgeist at the time, and it was pretty much like the only way that I could see openly queer people on television. You know,
Right.
you have like the hosts and the judges and these guests who are just like larger than life. And not only not only are they larger than life and beautiful, but they're also successful. And that is exactly what I needed to see growing up.
And it's great to see that. I also loved America's Next Top Model, and one of my favorite episodes to this day was the drag episode where the girls had to dress up as boys, and then these male models had to dress up as women. And then you look back at it, and one of those male models was actually Raven for RuPaul's Drag Race.
Oh yeah, yeah. They had like Raven and I think I don't know. They had a couple girls in there, but it's fun to see that, you know. And then there's the like there's so many points where it all intersects. Like Raja, who won like, you know, the third season, was actually the head makeup artist on that show for 9 seasons. You know, so it's deeply ingrained. You know, fashion and pop culture and queerness all influence each other. I think gay people and queer culture really inspires and propels the pop culture phenom, as it were.
Totally. Now, speaking of fashion and pop culture, tell us a little bit of the style of your drag and what kind of looks we can expect from the Kitten Kiara.
Oh, bitch, it's all raggedy. It's all piece by piece. It's just one big
Lies!
puzzle.
Liza Minnelli!
No, really, it is. My style is. Uh, I love taking pieces. I love taking individual um, things that like speak to me in that moment and pairing them with like whatever I've got in the closet. I am a big thrift shopper. I love me the Goodwill. I, you know, You can catch me outside at the estate sale. You can catch me at the garage sale. You know, any time that an elderly woman dies, you can catch me right in her closet, honey, because she's not gonna stop me from taking all that lovely vintage clothing. Okay.
So you come off to me kind of as like very much attracted to vintage clothing, correct?
Oh yeah, for sure. I'm very much instyled by like inspired by the styles of like yesteryear, and you know what. I love like bringing that kind of thing back and putting that in the spotlight for sure.
So tell me, what's like your favorite era that you like to pull fashion from, like the 60s, 70s, 80s, or modern?
I like a good I like a good 70s moment, because there's just to me in that particular era there's just a lot of like freedom and experimentation with what people were wearing, and you can really see like in the clothing, um you know, people were like trying to push boundaries with like patterns, and just there's so many like wacky things from that specific era that I love. Unfortunately, I'm a big bitch, so a lot of like true vintage clothing doesn't fit me.
You are actually so skinny and curvy. Just shut your face right now. But it's true. One thing I kind of liked about like the 60s and 70s is it gave people permission to be flamboyant and over the top. Even, I mean, for men, men could wear those loud, bright colored floral prints, and women could wear stuff that was a little more daring and short with the sexy go-go boots. I mean, to me, that's one of my also favorite eras.
Right. Well, because the style of that era was really influenced by like the party culture, you know. So there was just a lot going on in the nightclubs, and the you know the spiffier you were, the better chance you had at getting into the club and actually having a good time, you know, and all that like awesome stuff that was going on in that era kind of gave way to like the true like wackiness of like the 80s and stuff. So it all just kind of like cultivates into something bigger and better as time goes on.
Now, as we can see, you are very creative with your looks. You're very beautiful. Tell us a little bit where you get the creativity for these fun and interesting looks that you create.
To me, it's all about like how I'm feeling in that moment and what I want to express. Like the pretty much the way I build an outfit is, you know, if I'm out shopping, if I find something that really speaks to me, I think about all of the different ways that I can wear it, and if I can take one thing and wear it like so many different ways, if I can restyle it and make it look different every time, that's a keeper. That's something that I want, and that's something that I, will put into the wardrobe to kind of spruce it up for sure. And um, it's very much like that episode of like The Simpsons where Marge goes out and she gets the Chanel suit and she wears it like one time, and then she realizes that she can't wear the same suit all the fucking time. So she like cuts it up and makes it into something else, and she styles it differently. And that's pretty much what I do. So I'll take a piece and I'll wear the fuck out of it, and once I'm like tired of it, I will absolutely upcycle it into something else and make it into give it new life.
But that's what makes you a fun and thrifty queen, honestly, because you have to look at a piece and think, how useful is this going to be for me within my drag career? And what kind of things can I bring to life with it? And I think one thing that differs you from maybe average queens, at least for me, is queens like me, I tend to be more attracted to like a one piece garment, like a dress or a business suit. I don't tend to piece together my outfits like a jacket, a skirt, and stuff to create a character. I think you have such a fashion eye that sometimes you could probably like take jackets and shirts and skirts and create this very high fashion character that we wouldn't even expect, and we wouldn't even suspect that it came from a thrift store.
Yeah, for sure. And a lot of the time, what I like to do as well is like once the garment has kind of like lived that one life, I'll tear it up. You know, I will. It, to me at that point, it's the fabric and like what can I do to it and how can I completely make it different. You know, I learned to sew at a young age. My mom taught me to sew by making Barbie clothes. Um, that was like the only way that I could like have Barbies was like if I like put the effort into like making the clothes for them. Um, and then, you know, I was also like tailoring all my own clothes so they would fit because, you know, they were all hand-me-downs and stuff. So I am, you know, thrifty with a needle and with a needle and thread, and that's really sorry. And that's really lent itself to my drag nowadays because, you know, I see something and I'm like, okay, but like this like square of fabric can really lend itself to something else and really just make it bigger and better. And yeah, so I just really try to transform it so that it's completely unrecognizable.
No, and I love that. And I love that you are able to use your sewing skills you learn from a young age and be able to use that to change and create your outfits and at least keep the outfits rotating. Do you ever create any of your own custom kind of designs to try to bring your own creativity to your style?
Yeah, it's kind of hard for me to, it's harder for me to execute the vision like from scratch. Just because it's like, it's so much more effort. And I'm more about like results. Even though I'm like incredibly patient, if I don't see progress in a project like happening consistently, then I get really discouraged with it. So what I like to do, you know, as opposed to starting from, you know, the bolt of fabric and, you know, making it from scratch, I like to take an original garment and just, you know, just really fuck with it until it looks different. You know, I'm not afraid to cut it up. I'm not afraid to pin it somewhere else. I'm not afraid to really take it to that next level. So yeah, whenever I'm creating an outfit, especially on a mannequin, I'm very inspired by like old school couturiers, and I will drape the fabric and pin it until it looks the way that I want it to.
Oh my God, girl, I love it. And I love that you really bring that kind of artsy creativity to your fashion when you're creating. So that's kind of fun. Now, I am kind of curious. Do you think, no, actually, no, let me take that back. What do you think makes your fashion unique and sets your fashion apart from other drag performers?
Well, first of all, I'm not shopping on Fashion Nova, so there's that.
I feel very attacked right now.
It's okay. It's okay. It's not just you. It's everybody.
Well, to be fair, I've been definitely hitting up AliExpress more just because they have more of the dance costumes.
Yeah, I mean, no shade to that. Like, because I definitely have like costumes that are you know mass produced, but the way that my daily style influences my drag style, and that is like I hate to wear stuff that other people have. I've always been that way. You know, if I see somebody else with the same top, it's not bitch you better take that top off. It's like, all right, well I'm gonna make this top look different, bitch. So you know, things that I do have that are mass produced, like I will definitely try to make it look different somehow for sure.
I love it. Now, girl, as we can tell with this beautiful face that you're serving us today, you have some amazing fucking makeup skills and you can create some fabulous creative things with just the power of makeup. Tell us a little bit about what goes through your mind when you're actually going to be putting on a face.
Oh yeah, it's a process. To me, putting on makeup is healing. It's almost like a spiritual process to me. It's very like meditative, because you're like you're getting in the zone and you're channeling this like this other worldly energy into yourself to to ex- to express yourself to an audience. And I'm very sensitive to that kind of vibe. And I just use that to influence, you know, the brush as I'm painting. What I like to do when I paint a face is I will just choose a simple color palette, you know. I'll choose like 2 or 3 colors that really speak to me in that moment and just go from there. My makeup process was really I'm really grateful for those like formative bedroom queen years because I was able to work out all the like kinks for the most part. um,
Ooh.
and starting out, it was mostly just like figuring out like what techniques worked on my face and like what would make it look good. So a lot of the time when I was starting, I would do like different things on each side of my face to see like, okay, is this working here? Is this working there? Like what what looks good and what is presentable and how can I finesse it to be presentable to an audience. And so that's mostly what's just going on in my head when I'm putting on makeup is like, you know, channeling an energy that makes me feel good and presentable.
I love it. And I mean, you definitely are doing it correctly because, bitch, you are so fucking pretty. And the fact that you're able to do edgy things and play with like bright colors as a skin tone, and you're known not just for today, you're known for doing this quite often within your drag career, like doing green skin tones, blue skin tones, pink skin tones, purple. Tell me a little bit of the process of creating those looks and if you have to do it kind of differently compared to your average drag looks.
Um, well, not really because it's the same technique. You're just using different colors. So that's kind of what like in the beginning I was a little like hesitant with it because I'm like, all right, am I good? Is this gonna work? Is this gonna like look the way I want it to? But honestly, I think the thing that makes a great makeup artist is confidence in your technique. So a lot of the times when I'm doing my makeup, you know, there are times where it just like I just fuck up and it just like I'm like this that's not doing what I wanted it to do. But I
Right.
think what makes or breaks what sets apart a good makeup artist from a bad makeup artist is a good makeup artist will see the mistake and they will understand that they can fix it and they can work with it and they can make it look good in the end. And it's just like you see the mistake and you just gotta breathe through it and you're like, okay, I can make this work. It's gonna be totally fine. Like I am not afraid to experiment and try new things all the time. And because I don't have like a set one face. There's always something different about it for me every time I do my face. You know, I try like a different under eye trick. I try doing my nose contour differently. I will, you know, try a different eye shape, different lip shape. You know, because it's the culmination of those things together that makes the face. And I try to make it a little different every time so that A, I know how to do the technique, and B, you know, I'm like pushing my boundaries to look different every time.
I love that. And, you know, I think it's really important that you do that with makeup. Try new things, try different processes, and it kind of helps you learn to evolve things. I love that you even said that the fact of a true makeup artist is the fact that even if you do mess up, it's the breathing through it, regrouping, and figuring out how to fix it. Because to me, I love that you actually call that's the sign of a true makeup artist because you made me feel really good about myself for at least a minute because sometimes I do struggle with that makeup, but then I think the point when I learn to be able to recover that is when, okay, I'm having a moment. Let's breathe for a minute. Let's usually I go smoke a bowl and then come back, regroup, and look at my face for about 2 minutes and say, okay, you need to do this and you need to do that. And then from there, it's usually a little easier to make those corrections.
Yeah, definitely. And like, I think developing the technique that works for your face is like the key because I remember when I struggled a lot in the beginning learning makeup because like the only like real outlets like when I was learning, you know, I was learning on like YouTube and stuff. And in the early YouTube days, you know, the only like makeup artists were like Michelle Phan, who was like this petite little Asian woman with the tiniest features. And she looked gorgeous. She has flawless technique, but what she does on her face doesn't look the same way on my face. So I had to do more research into like, okay, how do you take traditionally masculine features and how do you feminize them? How do you take, you know, these larger features and how do you whittle them down? How do you, you know, make that into something else? And it was at the beginning, you know, you always hear that like makeup is there to accentuate your features, and it's like it's only there to accentuate if you have the features, damn it. You know, if you've got different features, you've got to change it. You've really got to put on an entirely different face.
Yeah, you have to kind of work from the bottom up and create those features. And I have to do that myself. Now, one thing, I mean, I love so much about you is you do those daring things. As like today, you're pink and you look very beautiful. But one look that you did since quarantine that I think has had people flaring with just love because it's so creative, it's so fun, is this rainbow stripe look that you did that was inspired by a children's book. Could you tell us about that?
Yeah, I mean that was just born out of like total boredom during the quarantine. I was just like sitting home and honestly I saw somebody else do it on like Instagram and I was like, you know what, like I could do that. I love that book. It's one of my favorites. And I felt like it was just kind of like it was a moment that really spoke to me. So I just, you know, picked up my makeup brush and started painting and trying to emulate the same you know, the same image and you
And,
know, but with my own little twist on it. Yeah.
and what was the name of the children's book that you were inspired by?
Oh yeah, A Bad Case of Stripes, honey.
Woo, girl, yeah, and you had like all these different layers, stripes going down your face, but they were all different colors. And but it was so there was something that was so beautiful about it, though.
Yeah, there was like it's I have like this weird thing when it comes to like thinking in a 2D sense. So like seeing the image and then trying to like stamp it onto my face, I have a little like difficulty like thinking how that like works because, you know, your face has all these like curves and stuff on it. So you really have to like focus on, okay, it feels like I'm doing it right, but like does it look that way on camera? So you kind of have to like play with it a little bit to get it even and to get it look to get the like the measurements right and to make it look exact, but also you know, I wanted to make it distinctly me, you know, so I did a lot of shading with it as well to put in like, you know, the contour and, you know, the eye shape and the eyebrow and stuff.
I love that. And you know, I think you really do show a lot of creativity with your makeup. One of your looks that you do that I have gone quite crazy for, that it's actually one of your skin color looks that you go blue, is your blue fairy look. Can you tell us a bit about that look?
Yeah, that was that was one of my favorites to do because like I really love the color blue. It just I feel like you know, that kind of vibrant cerulean hue, it like when people see that, it automatically makes you feel something. And I did that for a number during Christmas time. I was literally like doing the dance of the sugar plum fairies as a sugar plum fairy. And, you know, so I just wanted to like invoke the spirit of, you know, a sparkly blue fairy during this like holiday season and you know, kind of evoke that sort of emotion with it.
Totally. Now, speaking of on stage, what are we to expect from a Kitten Kiara performance, girl?
Expect the unexpected. I try not to do the same thing all the time. Um, I like to bring a lot of variety with my performance. My goal is to be really adaptable with my drag and to be able to perform in any venue for any crowd. You know, so it what you are going to see me do depends on where you are watching me, so if I'm over, on the east side of Portland, I'll do something a little more daring and a little more creative and a little more artsy, because that's the audience that wants to see that, and if I'm downtown, I'm gonna rock out with like a dance number and just keep it simple, and and make people laugh and try to bring a bit of humor to it.
I love that. Now, what do you think you may be most known for doing on stage?
uh, Acting a fool. Yeah, like I said, it just depends. I like to fuse different things together. During the height of the song, you can always catch me doing a slow split. That's pretty much like my only trick I have in my bag, and I will beat that horse to death. Like, I will pull it out anywhere. I don't give a fuck. It's the only thing I have. So, but
You're saying out of all the dancing and tricks that all these queens do out there, you're only known for doing the splits?
pretty much, well, because I'm not like a dancer. I'm not like, some of us as singers, we ain't dancers, all right? And I ain't even a singer, all right?
But
So,
girl, I mean, and I say this with total respect. When you're in drag, you got one juicy booty. Don't tell me you don't go on stage and twerk that ass.
well, I mean, I have rhythm. I love music, and I love dancing, and I love moving, but it's not like I have no technique when it comes to dance. So I have no like actual moves. It's just me kind of like grooving to the beat. A lot of what I'm known for on stage is doing a lot of like spoken word in the mix. I like to create like a cohesive storyline with my performance. So it's almost like tuning into like an episode of your favorite TV show, or watching a movie or something. I like for there to be a solid beginning, middle, and end, that you can like follow and appreciate.
These are the drags of your life.
Bury that. I'm here to bring the drama, mama.
Well, I love it. Now, what do you think has been the craziest thing you've actually done on stage?
Ooh, I mean, I I've done a lot of crazy stuff on stage, honestly. I, During Halloween, I do this like cannibal number where I come out with like a severed head, and I'm eating like flesh and like covered in blood. I like to do this like third eye reveal where I peel off a piece of skin and there's like an eyeball like hidden underneath. I will. Uh, um, I just like to think outside of the box and do something like different. I've shaved my face on stage. I've completely like wiped all my makeup off on stage. So I really like to push my boundaries as a performer um, to get people to pay attention.
But have you ever sucked a dick on stage?
Not yet.
Well, I love it, girl. Ambitions, girl, ambitions. Now, tell me, you are one funny queen, especially just hanging out with you and getting to just kiki with you. Do you feel like you bring humor to the stage?
Oh, absolutely. I think like my like two basic moods on stage are like sexy and funny. So if I'm not like trying to evoke a sense of sensuality, I'm trying to make you laugh. Because it's all about the entertainment value to me, and I feel like the thing that sells the most are, sex and laughs.
So tell us, like, what is your comedy and your humor like?
I like a kind of like brash in your face kind of thing. I love something that you're not like expecting to see. What I like to do in a performance that is funny is I like to start out with something very familiar that people already know really well, like say like a really popular song, or something that like is old school that they like, it brings a sense of like nostalgia. I like to get their attention with that, and then like flip it with a really funny like dialogue of some sort, you know, but that pertains to the song and keeps the storyline going, you know. So that's my goal with that there.
I know nothing about being edgy and in your face at all.
Oh my goodness. Put them puppies away, sis. Oh my goodness.
Sorry, these torpedoes are armed and dangerous.
Ooh, you better keep them in the cage.
Well, I love it. I'm having so much fun having you here on this show, girl. Now, one thing I think makes you unique as a queen is you are really well known for doing these fun drag mixes on stage. And you're not just performing these mixes, you're creating them yourself. So tell me a little bit of the creativity and thought that has to go behind creating these mixes for your performances.
Yeah, to me that came out of a need to stand out, you know. I'm not opposed to doing, you know, just a song straight through, if, you know, the event calls for it, but I really like to stand out, and I think in order to stand out you have to bring something different. So that's kind of where that came from, and the way it comes about is just I try to make a story out of things that like speak to me. um you know, so what I like to do, I'm obsessed with like pop culture, so I will like take my favorite movie and I'll think like, okay, how can I condense this like hour and a half long movie into like 5 minutes, and have the story make sense and be entertaining. So basically, it's just like a highlight of, you know, the story, and you know, if people are familiar with it, you know, they love it and they're like enthralled by it, because they see the inspiration. And if even if people don't know my reference, you know, they're inclined to find out like what it is. And I think that's the goal, is to like spread the knowledge, as it were.
It's educating, honey. It's simply just educating people about pop culture, different movies, and maybe just how fucking nutty you may be. Now, I love that you do that because I think creating your own mixes and putting that own creativity kind of just heightens your own art. It kind of puts that extra stamp that makes it more unique and more just the Kitten Kiara. And it really separates your performances from other queens.
Definitely. I would agree like that. Like I said, it's the same thing like with my style. Like I hate wearing the same thing that other people are doing. So when I'm on stage, I hate doing what all the other girls are doing. So like I am just really trying to like stand out and make an impression on people. I want people to think about my performance after they've left the club.
Absolutely. Now, what kind of average music would you say that you are actually attracted to for a drag performance?
Like average songs, I think just mostly it's like whatever I'm listening to at that moment. Like if I have a song on repeat, you know, that's just like sticking out, then I take a moment to step back and say like, okay, well, I obviously am very familiar with this song, so why don't I just do that? So when it comes to like doing just a song, I will take something that I'm already familiar with, like what I'm listening to in that moment or an old favorite.
I love it. You know, with me, I'm tending to be attracted to either like pop music or sometimes that adult contemporary that's kind of edgy, a little slower. So that's kind of the things I like. And so I get that you really want to do music that really expresses how you feel as a drag queen in that moment.
Yeah, and it's definitely not tied to one genre for me because I love all types of music. Um, One of the biggest factors in like choosing a song is like, okay, if I'm at this certain place, um, what are all the other people going to be doing, you know? And more often than not, people are going to be doing something really popular and contemporary. So I think about like, okay, if people are going to be doing things in this moment, I should maybe either like slow down the tempo in order to stand out, or speed it up more, or even like take it back and like go old school and bring back a sense of nostalgia to the audience, that like you know, they get just as pumped for something that they used to love as they do for something that they are in love with right now, you know?
Absolutely. And I love that girl. Now, I am kind of curious. I've heard rumors through the drag grapevine for many, many years that you are quite the competitive bitch. In fact, I even hear you are the current Ms. Northwest Fierce.
Oh my goodness. Who told you that? Who told you that?
Just a little birdie.
I have an NDA. They do not need to be telling you this. Nuh-uh. Yeah, this past January, I took the title of Ms. Northwest Fierce 2020, and I have absolutely no shame in saying that I won unopposed. No bitches tried to fight me, so who else was gonna take it? I'm sorry.
Well,
I
girl,
may
that
not have
just
been the
means they were.
fiercest, but
I was just
I,
gonna say that just means they all knew not to come for the Kitten Kiara.
I was just the only one that answered the phone, honestly. They was like, "Do you want to do this?" And I was like, "Yeah, let's go for it." Yeah, that was a really fun moment because I'm not like a big pageant. Like I'm really competitive, but I'm not really like into pageants, mostly because there are so many like rules and standards. And whenever I see a rule book, I'll take the page out and fucking roll it up into a joint. Like I like rules are guidelines, sweetie. So the more I can bend them and the more that I can like not follow them, the better. And pageants are like really about strict adherence to that. So it was really intimidating, but you know it was something that I wanted to prove that I could accomplish, and it was really different from the experience that I had in competitions like Dragathon and Elite Queen. You know, so it was different and it set apart for sure. And coincidentally, even though I'm not into pageants, the pageant is the only thing I had ever won because I absolutely lost both of those competitions.
Oh my God, girl. Well, I was kind of curious because now you've mentioned you've done like a mainstream pageant, you've done several just drag competitions. What kind of goes through your brain when you're competing against all these bitches? Are you sold and ready to take that crown no matter what it takes, or are you just there to really show your art through and through?
It's a little bit of both. I like to use a competition as a platform to show that I can stand out. And but I also do want to win because there's prizes on the line. You know what I mean? There's stuff that you could really benefit from if you prove that you're the fiercest bitch out there. And I want those resources. I want those resources to better myself in my drag. So I will do what it takes to be the fiercest bitch out there. Haven't done it yet, but I'm gonna try.
Okay, for the money, honey. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And I mean, one of the things I love the most about like competitive scenes like that is that they're all like themed every week, and that's kind of how they work. And I'm a bitch that loves a theme. You give me a theme, and I will make it happen, honey. Like that's how, like that's what inspires me to like create coordinating like outfits and numbers. It's like you give me a theme, and I will entertain to you, hunty.
Yes. In fact, girl, that was my next question, was the fact that I heard a little rumor that you truly blossom when you actually have a theme to kind of go with your drag. So tell us a little bit more when you do have those theme shows or competitions, how those more inspire you to get more creative.
Yeah, well, it's like a start off point. You know what I mean? Like I feel like the theme is a diving board of sorts, you know, and you can just jump off from there into the pool of ideas and, you know, just soak them all up. And that's what really propels me because like if I don't have a certain like theme to anchor like where my creative process goes, then it's all over the place. You know, I'm like, well, I just have so many ideas going on at once that if someone can be like, okay, narrow that shit down, then I can have a clearer process and pathway to follow.
I love it. Now, we mentioned earlier in the interview that there has been a slight evolution with your drag. You started, right now you are the Kitten Kiara, but you did start with the name Ramona and did a lot of drag as Ramona. Can you tell me a little bit of the evolution, why you went from Ramona to the Kitten Kiara?
Yeah, that came about because I am just different than who I was in that time. And I needed a name that would reflect that. The biggest thing that happened in that time is I came out as trans and I, started openly living my truth in that. And uh, because of that, the last thing I wanted was to be tied to my old name and my old identity because it didn't represent who I am currently.
I get that. And your old drag name Ramona was actually attached to your dead name, correct?
Yeah, yeah. And I'm like, I have no issues like talking about my dead name or anything like that. My old name was Ramon. And so, go figure, I was being super creative and was like, all right, Ramona will be my drag name. And the full name was actually Ramona Dot. And Dot, of course, came from my fabulous drag mother, who is also a beautiful trans woman, Ms. Diva Dot, who
Ah,
adopted me pretty much like after the first time she saw me perform, and was like, "You are mine. Get over here." And I was like, "Yay!"
I love it. Now, if you don't mind, I kind of do want to dive a little more into this. And can you tell me a little more about transitioning into a woman and how that kind of plays for you, especially already being a drag queen?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of like it all really like goes hand in hand for me, at least. Doing drag was like the key to unlocking me accepting my transness, because looking back, reflecting on my past and what I've done and where I came from, it was like painfully obvious that like this is my truth.
Right.
And it wasn't necessarily something that I was prepared to deal with or face or admit, at the time, because I didn't know what that like meant. Um, I didn't think that I didn't think I had access to the resources, to achieve what I wanted. And so I just thought that it would be better to just not deal with that, because I didn't want to face like my own rejection as it was. I didn't want to be disappointed with myself. I didn't want to be like, okay, I'm trans, but I can't do anything about it. That was something that like I struggled with for a really long time, until I found my community and learned about being openly trans, and the fact that like it doesn't have to look any sort of way. It doesn't have to adhere to traditional standards. And that's what really opened up my mind to accept myself, because at the end of the day, no matter what I look like, my thought process, my brain, who I am on the inside, it has always been feminine, has always been female, has always been a woman. And it doesn't matter what I look like on the outside, because like, who I am is that.
I love that. Now, I am curious. The drag scene can be sometimes a little bitchy. Were you nervous to actually come out as a trans woman within the drag scene, seeing that you've been doing drag so long and it wasn't something that was public knowledge yet?
Definitely. I mean, so some of the reason why I was really hesitant is that there is a lot of like friction in the queer community about what it means to be trans.
Right.
Because there are trans folk who are very binary, and they adhere to that standard because that's what speaks to them and that's what validates them, in their gender identity. And there are also trans folk who are non-conforming to the binary, and who are readily to accept themselves as trans because they've gone through so much, and they understand that they don't have to change themselves in order to be accepted. And there's a lot of friction between these communities about whether or not they are or aren't trans, and whether or not they accept each other. And that was something that really scared me, because I know what I want out of my transition, and I didn't want anybody to like try and influence that in any way, or tell me that what I wanted was wrong, or that what I want isn't right just because it doesn't align with their beliefs. And so yeah, there was a lot of hesitation in coming out, because I wasn't sure if people would be like so readily accepting. But it was all like in my head, because the second I let that out and spoke my truth, I was just overwhelmed with so much support and so much love and so much acceptance, that it kind of like pushed that all away. And I'm in a really good place now, where I feel confident in who I am, and I feel hopeful about what I can achieve in the future.
I love that so much. And, I think the drag scene, as sometimes controversial as it can get, it can be very supportive, especially when you're being true to who you are. Because, as bitchy as we can be as queens, we also truly can understand the playing with gender, and how getting in this can sometimes help you realize that I'm not just a man putting on a wig and a dress, I'm a woman. And you don't want to throw away, like with you, I'm guessing you didn't want to throw away these years of learning your craft and learning to perform and getting that energy of being on stage, just because you have a realization that you're a woman. Because I mean, all fucking drag is valid.
Right, right. And honestly, like, I was more concerned about what my queer community would think about me, rather than like what, a heteronormative society would think about me, because I've always been ostracized by cishet people, and I knew that like I people are always just gonna do or say whatever. So my objective was never to fit in with them or impress them, but to be one with my queer self. And I I don't know. It's such a weird thing to think that like is is coming out as more queer than you already are gonna alienate you from your queer community. Like it's a weird thought process, but that's what I was thinking. And honestly, it was because I've never had a coming out experience until I came out as trans. um,
Really? You never actually came out as a queer person?
No, because it was just so obvious. There was never any need or reason for me to explain to people that I'm different, because it was just so obvious in just me like breathing. Like people, can take one look at me and be like, okay, that person is a queerdo. That person is definitely different and not like of this mindset. And so I never had any need to come out to people. I just kind of, because it was so obvious that I was different, I just let people assume what they wanted to assume, because it was easier to do that than it would be to explain to them what was really going on. So it's like, if at the surface level you understand that I'm queer, like on the surface level you think that I'm a gay man, but like you understand that I'm queer, like that's it. Like we're gonna leave it there, because I don't want any tension, I don't want any like confusion, I don't want any like whatever. Like you get the gist of it, so that's like what it is. And that perception that other people had of me really started to uh, like weigh down on me as the older I got, because it was just like, okay, at a certain point, I felt almost like I was living a lie, because, and I guess that's why they call it, living your truth, because if you're not, then you're living a lie.
Absolutely. And I am kind of curious, that does lead to my next question is at what point did you actually realize that you were a woman and not just a queer person or just a drag queen?
Yeah, to me, that moment came about uh, by forming strong relationships with other trans people. I I saw myself in them, and I realized that we were going through the same struggle. Um, and there were so many parallels and similarities to what I was experiencing to other people's trans experience, that it just like hit me one day, and I was just like, wow, this this is who I am, and this is literally how it's always been. So I just need to accept that and say that out loud and actualize that for myself.
I love that. Now, I am curious, like, did you instantly come out when you had that realization, or was there a certain amount of time that you had to just kind of take for yourself from realizing you were a woman and coming out as a trans person?
Yeah, it was a little bit of a there was a little bit of like a quiet period where I realized it, and then when I told people, because like I said, I was scared to come out to my community, but I wanted that relief. So it started with admitting it to myself, and then having those conversations with the people who were closest to me, and just sitting them down and being like, look, this is who I am. And, you know, age old story, they'd take it in and be like, okay, you're telling me like I didn't already know. Like so
Right.
getting that kind of reaction from the people who were closest to me really pushed me to make a statement about it for the people around me. And yeah, so it all came about in a Facebook post and a performance that I needed to express and to show people.
Well, that's actually was what I was going to bring up next is I heard you actually did a coming out performance for your community to let them know what you were going through.
Yeah, it was really emotional, and it was a moment that I am really grateful for, because it was so powerful, to an audience full of people, to express that was very, very empowering. Um, it was actually for the filthiest person in Portland's competition that happened last year, which
Ooh.
my mother, Miss Diva Dot, took the crown for that, because she is absolutely the filthiest person in Portland. No,
Yes,
like,
you
hands
nasty
down.
bitch.
And I wanted specifically to do that in that space because my emotions were so raw. Um,
Right.
and it was me expressing like the filth that I had been carrying my whole life by hiding this secret, and by forcing myself to like to to be constantly like at war with my body. Like those are the things that made me filthy and made me feel disgusting and gross and unwanted. I always had this mindset that like people are never going to understand me because of my body. My body doesn't reflect my inner thought process, so people are just never going to connect with that. And um, through this performance, I was able to like alleviate that. People, for the filthiest person, people are making a mess. People are getting down and dirty, which is fabulous. It's all in good fun and it's great entertainment. And I really wanted to make a personal statement with that. So I I did a number to a slowed down version of Just a Girl, and I sat on stage and I shaved my face and my chest in front of everybody, and like shedding that that shell that made me feel disgusting um, in front of so many people really changed my life. that night.
Oh my God. I mean, it's so inspiration and powerful just even hearing about it because, I mean, that had to be such an important, probably one of the most important performances you've done within your whole career.
Yeah, definitely. And I have done it in like other spaces as well. A little more curated spaces where you're allowed to take a more artful stance. Because I was just feeling so much emotion, and I really wanted as many people as many people as possible to know what I was going through.
Oh my gosh, I hear you. Now, I am kind of curious. Um, do you feel like there's ever an internal battle between you as a drag queen and you as a trans woman? Tell me a little bit of the dynamic that you go through um, as, both a trans woman and a drag queen.
I don't think there's a battle between my female self and my drag self. I think that other people have more of an issue with it because, like, they see the way that I am, and if I am presenting myself in a certain way, people will just assume that I'm in drag. And that to me is like super insulting and not the point, you know?
Right.
And it's so different. That's why like I try to make my drag so like polar opposite from my like normal self. Like in the beginning of me doing drag, my goal was to be as feminine as possible. And that kind of led me to realize that like I'm just always feminine, and that's just like who I am. And so when that process happened, my drag took a more artful stance, and my drag really separated from my like daily self. And so when I'm in drag, it's big. It's more of a showcase. It's just a lot more. Everything is heightened, everything is extra, you know. And in my daily life, it's soft, it's subtle, it's gentle, it's just me.
And you mentioned earlier that you feel like drag actually helped you find your trans identity. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. It led me to discover that because I was just like, I was constantly in uh I was constantly in drag, and I was constantly femme presenting, and I was also building these meaningful relationships with other trans people, and it just made me realize that like, all right, like this is the truth, and I have to accept that for myself, and like, you know do my damnedest to actualize that.
I love that so much. As a non-binary person myself, I've been identifying as genderqueer since my mid-20s. And for me, I feel like I'm comfortable in the body I was born with, but in my brain, I feel like I'm both male and female. And I think it's helpful for me because being able to do drag has given me an outlet to give my female brain power and control, but also give me an opportunity to live myself as a boy. But it's funny because the older I get, and especially when I do drag more often, I sometimes get these urges, even if I'm not going out to a show or anything, to like put on my boobies, throw on a wig, and just feel like a girl for a bit.
Yeah, it's all about your gender expression, and like that's the thing about being fluid, is that it's subject to change depending on how you feel. And like that's fabulous. That's like, that doesn't make it any less true, that doesn't invalidate it in any way. And I think a lot of people need to hear that.
I agree. And I've been told all the time because people are so used to seeing me either as a drag queen or a boy, so they kind of put me in the box of being a drag queen and just that. But and I have to explain to them many times that even though I don't fight for people to call me they or them, I still am a genderqueer person. And I do have a subject of some days I just want to feel like a female. And maybe I want to be addressed as a female. And I am a true believer, at least for my body and how I treat myself, is if you can call me a she if I'm presenting a female form, you can call me a male if I'm presenting a male form. But like if you're unsure, then I would prefer call me a they or them.
Right. And and I think that's the thing about the trans experience that I think people outside of the queer community don't realize is that it is so different for everybody, and your individual experience is pertaining to you as a trans person, and it's not just because it's different than what other people like think it is doesn't make it any less than what it actually is.
Absolutely. Now, girl, tell me a little bit, what does being able to do drag as a trans person mean to you?
Uh, I mean, it means the world to me. It means that I am able to consistently express myself, and it means that I am able to, you know, um, explore myself as a person and express all these like feelings that have always been there. I think it's important for trans folk who do drag to be as visible as possible, because there's kind of this stigma going around that like drag is only for cis gay dudes,
And it's not.
and it's never been that way, so I think the more vocal that gender nonconforming and trans people are about their artistic expression, the the better it is. It's we're all a unified community, and the we have a voice, and it's meant to be heard, and it's just so important to speak that and to live that and to do it without fear. And I think that um, you know you kind of have to be fearless when as an artist and as a trans person, and when those things come together, you have to be doubly fearless because you have more, you face more criticism, and you face um, more like more questions and more misunderstanding from people who may not know where you come from, and I feel like it also gives you more of a responsibility to teach other people about what it means to as it pertains to you, so that they can have a deeper understanding and a deeper compassion for things that they may not understand.
Now, speaking of understanding, tell us, what do you feel is probably the most important thing for people to understand about people who are transitioning that they may not know?
um well, yeah, just that like it is completely different for everybody. There is no one set way to be trans. There is no right or wrong way to be trans. Um, if you are, and that is your truth, then like it's like there's no discussing it. There's no arguing it. It's like that is the truth for that person, and it's our job as a community to uplift them from their own internal like suffering. If someone is comfortable enough to come out to you and tell you their truth, the last thing you need to do is argue with them about it and tell them that they are not, because that's not doing anybody any good.
Absolutely. And I do just want to say thank you so much for being very honest and vulnerable and just very true to who you are during this interview. I feel like it was important for you to have your voice heard and, kind of give people a different perspective.
Thank you. Yeah, and it's kind of like I'm also like on a journey with it as well, because it's like I said, because it's not the same for everybody. There's not really like a guidebook. there's there's no like instructions on how to achieve it. You live it day by day, and that's just it. You just live it, and um you try to actualize your goal and make it possible for yourself.
I love that so much. Now, I want to go a little more into your career, if you don't mind. Within the last 3, 4 years, girl, you have become so well known and such a fan favorite all through Salem and Portland. In fact, you got your big start over in Salem at a little restaurant that we used to know as Shotskis. It's sadly no longer with us. And you were able to get added as part of the cast and work with so many amazing people, including almost all the fucking Rue Girls. Tell us a little bit about that experience.
Yeah, I'm really grateful for the experience that I had at that bar, because they gave me my first chance, and they gave me a space to explore my art and get a footing in this community. And I'll always be grateful for that. And I met so many people, formed so many relationships. Like, without that place, Diva Dot wouldn't be my drag mother. Without that place, I wouldn't have the same friends who are close to me now. My experience would be really different without that place. And rest in peace, Shotskis.
Totally. And like I mentioned before, you got to work with tons of RuPaul girls. Tell us just a little tea. Who was your favorite Ru girl to actually work with?
Oh God, the real question is, do I remember ever working with any of them? Oh my God, let me tell you, honey, as soon as the drinks start pouring, I am gone. But I will say that, like, probably someone that stands out the most to me as someone who was like the kindest and like the most who brought the biggest sense of camaraderie to the show was definitely Latrice Royale. Like, she was so cool. She was so nice to everybody. Such a social being. And I remember she got there early, and she like came in through the back like everybody, and I was out there like gabbing with the gals, and she just like had a kiki with us, and like smoked a J, and was like, cool, like we're gonna have a good time tonight. Like, she was so much fun, so incredible. um yeah, she's definitely one of the best ones to have come through those doors for sure.
Oh my God, I totally agree. I have met Latrice probably like 5, 6 times, and I got to do a show with her a few years back here in Eugene. I believe it was with the Caravan of Glam, and it was a lot of fun because, like you said, she's not one of those Rue girls that really thinks that I need a private dressing room. I don't want to be talked to. She's more of those queens where she wants to be at the same level as the other queens and just kiki with you. And I mean, she's such a sweet fucking person. And even when from the first time of meeting her and then seeing her again, like at DragCon, she actually fucking remembered me. She's like, aren't you like something like Bitchcock or Wiener Dick or something like that? I'm like, yeah, I'm Wiener Dick.
I love that. I love that. That's so cool. Like, honestly, I wish someone would remember my name. Fuck.
Well, bitch, it'll happen for you. Now, do you have any fun or crazy stories with any of these Rue girls that, might be a little entertaining for our audience?
Well, I mean, to be honest, like the ones that we actually like spent the most time with were like Latrice and Shangela, because they were very like they were just like your best friend like the minute they got there. Other than that, though, the girls didn't necessarily spend a whole lot of time like fraternizing with us.
Right.
I know. Also, Miss Roxy Andrews was super cool. She was so fun and like such a homegirl when she came through. She was one of the only gals who actually like would come out of her dressing room and like kiki with us in our dressing room during the show. Like she really stood out for that. Other than that, yeah, most of the girls, you know, and no shade to them, but yeah, like most of them just treated it like another day at work, you know, just doing their thing, which is cool. It's respectable. You know, you gotta get your coin, girl. Um, you know, and but they were still nice. They were still fun. I remember, I think the one that stands out to me the most as questionable was Miss Alyssa Edwards, the Grand Dame of
Ooh,
Texas.
girl, who's your specialty on this? Tell me more.
Miss Thing was, I don't know, maybe she was just tired, maybe she was just having a rough day or something, but I remember she was not impressed with the venue.
I mean, didn't that bitch say, like, who
Aw.
smoked me at this fucking pizza parlor?
Oh no, she went on the mic and she literally said, she goes, "Y'all got me here at a Shakey's Pizza Parlor." Like, oh my goodness. It was and like it was all like, you know, good natured in a joke, you know, but I was still like, oh, she is being shady right now. She is being hella shady. Like but you know, I mean, she's got bigger and better things to do. I mean, you know, so of course when you are that and then you come to that there's, you know, it's it is what it is.
I hear you. And I love it. Now, you're also very well known out in Portland, and you even got some of your Portland start by performing at a well-known event called Club Kai Kai, which had such an impact on you. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, actually, it took a long time for me to actually be able to perform at Club Kai Kai because it's such a high profile event.
Mhm.
I got my start by just going to the parties, and just going and enjoying the events and like having a good old time there. So that's where most of my like networking came through, is like I knew that that was like the crowd that inspired me and like what I wanted to get into. So I spent a lot of time at Patrick's parties. Patrick Buckmaster, the producer of Club Kai Kai, they had a couple other events that were like going on in concurrent with that, and I did get my start at one of his parties actually. Once I was like a pretty regular at their events, um, I asked to do this event called Sad Days, which was um, a drag show that was based on like, you know, emotions and more deeper feelings and meanings. Like when you go to this place, like it's called Sad Days for a reason. Like we're trying to make you cry. Like that's point blank period. Like we're trying to like get you deep. And
Try
at
to
the
touch those emotions.
yeah, yeah. At the time, this was held at the Lovecraft Bar, and that's the very first time I hit the stage in Portland was at a Sad Days. And yeah, like the rest is just history. I was able to perform in front of an audience of my peers, not just people who were there to see entertainment, but other artists who who knew where I was coming from. And that is what made the biggest difference to me. And that is what was so fulfilling about that night and what pushed me to like keep going, because I was on such a rush being able to be one with all these people that I admired so much. You know, it felt like I was finally fitting in, and yeah, it was, you know, the rest is history.
Absolutely. And another thing that really helped you along the way that you mentioned a little bit earlier, but we'll dive a little more into now, is that you were lucky enough to meet someone who really wanted to take you under their wing and help guide you and, you know, really help kind of figure your drag out and help you figure out where you wanted to go with your career. This person, of course, you like to call Mother. We are talking about the one and only Diva Dot. So tell me a little bit about your relationship with her.
Yeah. The very first time I ever saw Diva Dot was before I met her at Shotsky's. This was actually it was at a club Kai Kai. I think they brought Shea Coulee as the headliner. It was like right after season 9. And so it was this cute little like patio party at the Star Theater. It was super fun. And Diva was actually the current reigning Ms. Northwest Fierce at the time. So we
Okay.
keeping that we keeping that title in the family. Um, and yeah, I just remember she hit the stage and was like so wild, and like she stood out as one of like the better performers and was just like incredible. And I remember just being like so hypnotized by her. And it was wild. It was like so crazy to like work with her just like a month later at Shotsky's when they invited me to do my first show with them. Um, and it was like for an all ages show at Shotsky's. Yeah, and I remember like going and meeting like Baby Moore and Miss Inanna and Diva all for the very first time. Um, and yeah, I told Diva, I was like, I know you. I saw you at this like show last month, and you're like so fucking cool. Like, I can't believe I'm working with you here right now. Like, that's so crazy. And this my like debut as it was something that I was working on for a really long time. So I was ready for this moment. And I it's I did a little like Over the Rainbow by but it was Patti LaBelle's cover of it.
Okay.
uh, and I was like fully equipped. I came out with like a reveal into like a rainbow dress, and I like pulled this like rainbow flag out of from under my wig, and like my wig stayed on. And like Diva was so thoroughly like impressed with me. She adopted me like pretty much like right there, and was like, okay, like I see like that you're someone who takes this seriously, and you're someone who thinks outside of the box and is like kind of fucking weird, and I like that. So like, would you like, be a part of my family? And I was just so like shook and like
Mm.
ecstatic about it. Like I of course I said yes. And Diva has really been such a great mentor to me. She really has. A lot of people are very hands-on with their approach when it comes to being a drag mom. They'll like, I'll teach you how to do this, I'll teach you how to do that. You got to look this way, you're representing me now, so blah 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 blah. Now you have to adhere to my standards of what it is to do drag. And Diva was never like that. Diva allowed me the space to express myself without any boundaries. Diva was from the get-go, she was just like, you are fierce and you need to own that, and you need to cultivate that and do crazy shit, because it's fucking cool and you're fucking cool. So Diva really pushed me to be confident in myself and to really command the stage. And she is like, Diva's known for being a fierce lip syncer. She always knows the words, she is always on point. And that's something that she always stressed to me, is like, okay, if you want to stand out, like, this is what you have to do. Like, you just have to know what you're doing when you hit that stage, because otherwise, like, you have no business up there. So um she definitely had less of a hands-on approach, but she has always been supportive and encouraging, and I will always be so grateful for her for that. And I love her so much. So
And
shout out
I
to Miss Diva, you fucking filthy bitch.
Yes, Miss Diva Dot. And I am just curious, like the dynamic between you two, were you always so willing to take her advice, or were you sometimes like, no, mom, I already know what I'm fucking doing?
No, not at all. Like, and she, don't get me wrong, she is not afraid to critique me either. She is not afraid to be like, yeah, that was fine, but like, you're a little sloppy out there. Maybe you should, maybe you should like reconsider like what you're doing. Maybe you should like work a little harder on that. Like, she will tell me like it is, and that kind of honesty between mother and daughter has really formed a good relationship between us, because I trust her and I trust her judgment, and like, I know that she is not trying to lead me in a way that is not going to benefit me. She only wants what's best for me, and I believe that coming from her, as crazy as that may sound from Diva Dot. um, yeah, so I've always respected her and her opinion, and I try to take it to heart. Even when there are times where she's like, "Girl, like, what the fuck was that?" Like, I was like, "Well, I did it."
Well, I love it. And, I am excited to say that, because actually, I will say that Diva Dot is probably my most requested person to get on the show by fans of Bitch Talk with Bitchcock. And
Hey,
because of that, for Pride Month for June, we will get a little appearance from the one and only dirty bitch herself, Diva Dot. So that announcement will be coming
yes,
out
I
soon, but
love
she's
that.
coming on.
Fuck yeah! Oh my god, she better talk about me. I'm gonna be mad if she don't. I'm the favorite.
Girl, she better. Now, tell me before we go into our next subject, what is probably the most important thing that Diva Dot has taught you as a drag mother?
um, well, it's hard to pinpoint just like one thing, because she really has taught me so much. I just I love that she is so open to teaching her children and supporting them. We have a really great family. It's not just me who is her daughter. Her first drag child is Dramatica, who is just like this fierce, like grungy, fucking like punk rock masterpiece. Dramatica is Diva's like kind of like punk side. She is her like more dark and like spooky side, whereas I am Diva's softer side, as it were. And then you've got Och Daddy, um, who is another like really creative like spirit who like Och is so cool because Och makes like all these like props, and the cool thing that I admire about Och is that they are able to actualize their vision. Like if they see something in their head and they're able to make it happen in real life, they're able to execute the vision flawlessly. And that's something that I really respect about Och. They're super cool. And then you've got the newest edition, Miss Glucose Bowery, who is the baby of the family. And I just can't seem to get rid of that one, honestly.
Well, with enough poison, you can get rid of anyone.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, like to go back to your question, I think that the biggest thing that Diva has taught me is to just be confident and fearless in what I'm doing, and to bring that energy to the stage. Because if you're hesitant, if you hold back at all, an audience is going to see that, they're going to feel that, and they're not going to respond to you very well if you're not holding yourself with confidence and making them look at you. So Diva has instilled in me a stage presence that I don't think anybody else could have.
I love it. And, Diva, if you're watching horror, we are so looking forward to get you on the show to get you to spill all the tea and tell us some secrets about Kiara. Well, perfect, bitch. Let's move on. Now, right now, as we all know, we are going through some fucking scary times here in 2020. And, with the coronavirus and the murder hornets, and now with everything going on, with the community. I feel like the world's definitely torn apart with Black Lives Matter happening. Can you, now I know you come from a very strong Hispanic background in your culture. Um, why do you feel like maybe this day and age it's important for you to embrace your culture with your drag, with everything going on in the world?
Well, first off, as it pertains to Black Lives Matter, um, just because I am a person of color doesn't mean that I understand exactly what it is that other people are going through. I know my experience as a Mexican American, and I have definitely had privilege that my Black brothers and sisters don't have. You know, so it's, as a person with that privilege, it's my responsibility to fight for that equality and fight for the justice that we don't see every day. You know, so first and foremost, there's that. I can't speak directly for Black people because I am not, but as it pertains to me as a Mexican American, um, you know, it's something that I kind of had to learn to love about myself. Like I said, I was born into a Mexican Catholic family, to an immigrant father, and I was raised in a town of white Mormon people, so um, there was always conflict when it came to my culture, and being so young and just wanting to be able to like survive, like for me it was like I had to pick a fight, either like let people insult me for being brown or let people insult me for being gay and queer. Like I
Right.
couldn't I couldn't handle both of them at the same time. So I I spent a lot of time like whitewashing myself and who I was, particularly because like I didn't really have um a a strong relationship with my father growing up, and um you know, there was always just a divide with us. So I never tried to connect with him, and the only connection we had was our culture. So the further I distanced myself from him, the further I distanced myself from my culture, and um, it really kind of like fucked me up growing up.
Right.
And now it pushes me to embrace that part of myself even more because I spent so long denying it and pushing it away. And you know, it's a learning process. You know, it is a lot of baggage that I have had to unpack because, you know, of my surroundings and where I come from. And you know, I'm not ashamed to admit that it is a learning process, and it's something that I struggle with every day. You know, there are people who will say that, you know, you're not brown enough, you know, you're not you didn't appreciate, you know, who you are, where you come from. And you know, that may have been true in my past, but I am working to overcome that in my future and to really embrace who I am as a Mexican American.
I love that, girl. And you know, it's very, I feel like it's very important to be in touch with your culture, and especially with this day and age. I mean, I know that you mentioned you're not a Black person, but you are a person of color, which even, I mean, you are still affected. I mean, we're all affected by this, but you know, these are such scary times. It's important for all of us, no matter what your skin tone is or who you are, to make your voice heard about these issues, because there's been so many injustices and so much racism that's gone on in the world.
Yeah, and I feel like not even I feel like at this point it's not even like it's not how I feel. The
What
truth
it
of the
is.
matter is that like we all collectively need to work on overcoming our inherent biases that we are born with, the racism that is instilled within each and every one of us because of our society, you know, it's not enough just to acknowledge it. It's not enough to just point it out and say that it's there. We have to work to unpack that and actively change that and make a difference for our community, for everyone who is a person of color in this country.
I hear you. And it's going to be a long fight, but I think it's going to get worse before it gets better, but I think we're going to get to a point where hopefully equal rights will be something that's going to be easier access for all of us, and hopefully that hatred and racism that is very blatant and very much used within the world right now will fade away and hopefully become a thing of the past, because it's so unnecessary. And in my opinion, it is easier to love than actually fucking hate.
True, it's easier to love and hate, but it's also easier to like push away your feelings of being uncomfortable because they're uncomfortable. You know, it's so much harder to deal with our own inherent bias. It's so much harder. Like, it's so easy to point the finger at other people and tell them that they are doing wrong, but it is another thing entirely to look in the mirror and say like, okay, you have some stuff that you need to like work out. You know, you really need to do better. And that's where the work comes in. Like, we have to work for this change actively. You know, we can't just sit by passively and let other people do the work for us and expect the minority to make the change. We have to all come together and make that change as a majority. Otherwise, we are never going to see it happen.
I fully fucking agree. And I'm hoping, I mean, with all of the things happening in the world right now, I think it's gonna happen. And hopefully soon we wake up in a better world, and a lot of that hatred is the thing of the past. At least that's the hope I have. And go ahead, girl.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, here's hoping. You know, that's why we're out here fighting every day. That's why we're out here protesting. That's why we're out here, you know, uh, making an uprising, because it's time. It's time. We are sick of and tired of this happening consistently, you know. Um, so many people so many people came before us to fight for this change, and the fact that we're still fighting it today is, you know, it's crazy. And you know, but it's our responsibility to ensure that the future doesn't have the same struggles.
And Kiara, in fact, you mentioned to me that, and I'm going to give you the floor for just a minute, that you had several organizations that you would like to bring up and give people an opportunity to donate that can maybe help make a change. Is that correct?
Yeah, totally. I know that you know, you like to include our like Venmo and Cash App and stuff for the show, and we'll include that for sure. But I just want to let everyone know that like any tips that I receive to this is gonna go like directly into supporting my community and people that I know and love directly. You know, and if you are watching this, I implore you to please look up your local resources to help the Black community around you. You know, donate to the Minnesota Freedom Fund. You know, help that. Donate to the George Floyd Memorial Fund. You know, look into your community and see where you, as as a non-person of color, can help your community. You know, look into your local Black Lives Matters chapters, you know, and see what you can do to help. If you have the resources to donate, because it's what else are you doing? You know, we all, if you can't be out there on the front lines in the protests making that change physically, you can still help. Your voice and your support will help people. So please, I implore you to look that up and make these donations. And like I told you, we'll include all of the links and whatnot to donate to some of the organizations that I just mentioned there.
Absolutely. And if you guys look below in the description, we're going to provide those links and those availabilities for you to make those donations, because like Kiara said, it is important for each and every one of us to make an effort to make our voices heard. And if you can't, like she said, if you can't go out there and actually be active with the protests, donate $5, $10, because even $5 is going to make a huge difference.
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, educate yourself and educate the peoples around you, because that's the only way we're going to make a difference.
Oh, I hear you. Now, Kiara, we only have a couple more questions, but that means we're actually almost done with the main interview with Bitch Talk with Bitchcock. So, girl, tell us, what can we expect next from the Kitten Kiara?
Well, there's I mean, it's all up in the air, you know, given the current state of things. You know, so it's not like you'll be able to catch me at your local bar anytime soon. But I am working on creating a digital platform to, you know, provide a source of entertainment right now.
Oh, is
Um,
that your OnlyFans?
but oh my goodness. How'd you know about that? Stop
Well,
it.
girl, I do my research.
That's on the down low. Only you know, only the people who are closest to me will know about that information. But no, I'm not talking about my OnlyFans, but I want to create like a podcast that reviews like queer culture in like movies and like film, TV shows and whatnot, to kind of like create a cohesive, a comprehensive list. You know, if someone is like looking for queer references in pop culture and media, you know, I want them to be able to refer to this. So it'll essentially be like a review podcast where myself and a friend will come on and we'll like watch this movie together, and then we like review it and break it down, you know, break down the queer elements of it and how it affects the cultural zeitgeist, and if it has personally affected like our queerness in general, you know, and just a fun little kiki, you know. So I love film, I love pop culture, you know, and I just, you know, wanna have a kiki with my friends.
I fucking love that idea, honestly. And the fact that you're going to feature queer cinema and queer culture within your podcast is very, very important, because there's so much of it, especially that we may have not even noticed at the time. And I will say, if you ever dive into the world of queer horror films and want to talk about a certain film from the 80s that we like to call the gayest horror film out there, Nightmare on Elm Street 2, bitch, call Bitchcock. I will come to Port Salem. I will cook some popcorn, girl, and we will have a kiki, because, honey, there is so much queerness about that movie to talk about.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. That's definitely one of my favorite movies for sure, and it's on my list of things to do. So, yeah, the whole thing is like in the very early stages right now. I'm, you know, trying to figure out how to do it all. So once I get my like footing into it, there will be an announcement in the future. But you know, it's you know, performing in person is definitely on the back burner. So I am just, you know, trying to find find a way to still do what I love, and have it, you know, be relevant in what we're going through right now.
I hear you, girl. Well, I only have two more questions. The next one is, you know, girl, we've known each other a little bit. I've worked with you quite a few times. Do you have any fun, crazy, or maybe just silly stories for working with the one and only Maliena Bitchcock?
Yeah, actually, I remember one of the first times that I got to work with you was at the Monique Shame show at Shotsky's. And you pulled that like it number with the like
Oh,
clown look and stuff.
The penny.
That's always something that I think about, because that was just a fun night in general. Like, we all had a blast. And I remember you like taking pictures in the alleyway right next to her, and like it was just a ball. It was a grand old time.
Oh my God, I love it. Yeah, that was actually one of my favorite shows. And I think one of the few shows I got to do at Shotski's. And it was a great night. You know, we got to hang out with Monique. I got to do my Pennywise. I did an amazing photo shoot with Down That Alley. So I love it. Now, girl, one last question before we go into our announcements in our games. What did you think of your experience on Bitch Talk with Bitchcock?
This was a lot of fun. I love to just like kiki and have a moment, with the people around me. So this has definitely been a lot of fun, and I like having this dialogue here. So thanks.
Absolutely. Well, quick announcement before we go into our games. If all you boys and girls and all those in between are enjoying this fantastic episode of Bitch Talk with Bitchcock, I want you to look down below within the description where you can find both mine and Kiara's PayPal, Venmo, and Cash App information where you can give a little something extra as a tip for appreciating this episode. But in addition, this episode will also have some important links and information about Black Lives Matter and where you can make donations for that cause also, just because we want to make sure that we're doing our part to support our community. So before I let you go though, girl, actually, we're going to play a little game, but before that, I want to make a quick announcement that our next guest is coming up this Wednesday, and it's actually going to be my last Wednesday show, people, because Bitch Talk with Bitchcock is moving from 3 days a week to 2. So after this week, we will just be doing shows on Mondays and Fridays. Yay, freedom! But I want to announce that the next guest is coming up this Wednesday. She's beautiful, she's talented, and she's one sexy bitch. It's the one and only Jessica Rabbit.
Ooh, we got liquor coming here.
So make sure to tune into that because it's going to be one fucking hell of an episode. Now, before I let you go, girl, you want to play a little game with me?
I love games. Let's get into it.
Perfect. Let's get you lubed up, and we're going to play a little game, a little altered this time, because we just want to get you high. So we're going to play a game called Truth or Smoke. And how this is going to work, girl, is I'm going to ask you a series of shady questions, and you can either answer truthfully or take a hit of that devil's lettuce.
Hey, I'm excited. I'm just trying to get stoned, so you're just gonna see me smoke the whole time.
Girl, I might even get in on this. So first and foremost, for round 1, tell us your worst performance flop that's ever happened to you in drag.
Ooh, performance flop. I don't know. There's so many. I would have to say probably like the worst performance flop happened at Shotski's. It was a group number with myself and Bougie Cherry and Kwanzaa Shade. Yeah, we I don't know. Hopefully no one watching this was there, and hopefully no one watching this remembers that night. But this was the night that we did a Charlie's Angels performance, and it was you had to be there to see it, but it was a disaster. It was there's lots of pictures of us, and you can even see like in the pictures, like we are just like, we're not coordinated, we don't know what's going on, we're like just fucking, it was not our best group performance, that's for sure. So
not
probably
so much, so not so much Charlie's Angels, more like Charlie's fuck ups.
More like Charlie said, get the fuck out of here. Yeah.
Okay, well, let's go to round 2, where I'm going to ask you to tell us the time, oh shit, this is the shady one. Let's tell us about the time that you passed out on the pool table at Shotsky's.
Ah! Okay, which time? Just kidding, just kidding. Okay, that only happened once, but it only needs to happen once because no one will ever let you forget it after it happened. That particular time was, I believe that was at the Aquaria show, literally right after she won. And I was fully drunk before the show even started.
Oh,
That's how, yeah, this is when I was drinking a lot. And yeah, so I'm I'm sober nowadays. I have not had a drink in the past like 2.5 months now. So
good.
I'm really striving to keep that up. And you know, one of the biggest catalysts for me pushing to become sober is because I lose control when I drink. I'm not the type of person to just have one drink and like, you know, leave it at that and enjoy that. I drink to get drunk, and it's not good for me. It wasn't doing any good for me. Um, Anyone who knows me and who knew me in those moments knew that like I was just wild. I have a tendency to like black out when I drink too much, and just like the craziest things happen to me in that state of mind. And this night in particular, I was like upset for whatever reason, and so I started drinking like pretty heavily before the show started. I was blackout drunk by the time like I was supposed to like perform. So the only thing I remember of that night was like trying to get into my outfit like to perform, and it was really elaborate at the time. It had so many layers and like was so like difficult to get into. That's like the only thing I remember of that night. But the footage of me performing that night is actually really great. I guess I like entered this like state of mind where like when I hit the stage, like you could not tell that I was blackout drunk. So that was cool. That was fun. Um, However, once I got off the stage and made a mess of myself, that's a whole different story. Allegedly, allegedly, there is no photographic evidence of this whatsoever, but allegedly, there
Tell
are
me.
witnesses who say that I got up on stage during Aquaria's meet and greet and like kind of whacked her with a fan. Um, like I said, there's no evidence of this. Okay, if this happened during the meet and greet, why did nobody take a picture? Huh? Why? So I don't believe it happened, um, but I wouldn't be surprised if it did. But like basically, I was just so like out of it and like out of my fucking mind, that I guess I just passed out on the pool table. Like there's thanks to Kimberly Michelle Westwood, ya bitch. There is photographic evidence and video evidence of me rolling around on the floor, just acting a complete mess. Just I passed out like on the pool table, like ugh. And like all the girls like are taking pictures, like shoving shit in my mouth, like I was a
Remind,
mess, and I definitely deserved it that night. So thank you all for never letting me forget that.
reminder, call Kimberly Michelle Westwood after our interview. Well, I love it. Thank you so much for spilling that tea because, to be honest, for you, girl, we already spilled that tea during Bougie Cherry's interview on accident because I thought that story was originally about Bougie. And I brought it up.
I saw that. And I was like, no, that was me, Miss Thing.
She's like, she had no problem with like, bitch, that was Kiara. I was
I
like,
know, right?
sorry.
Convenient conveniently, Bushi's not going to tell you about all the times, when she gets drunk, but that's up to her. Those are
She
her
did.
tales and her
She
stories.
even spilled the tea of the time she puked on Chanel.
Oh, honey, that that story is like child's play compared to what I've seen that girl go through. But also at the same time, I am not one to talk because I have definitely, like, that night at Aquaria when I passed out on the table was not even my worst blackout night. So I have no room to talk.
Well, perfect, girl. Let's go into our last question of truth or smoke. Is there any queens that you would prefer not to work with?
You know, I'm okay. I'm gonna be real honest. There's only one queen out there that I would not work with. Luckily, I don't have to worry about working with her because she's not around anymore. She don't do drag. She's
Oh,
irrelevant.
okay, queen. Well, thank you for retirement, right?
Exactly. And at her old age, honey, it needed to happen.
Sorry about it. Well, perfect, girl. You survived our game of truth or smoke, but you didn't even smoke a hit, so we're going to have to get you high after the show. But
Hey.
perfect. I have one last game before we say our goodbyes to everyone, and this one is definitely a Bitch Talk with Bitchcock favorite, and this is what tends to get my girls in a lot of trouble. This is a game we like to call Marry, Kai Kai, or Cancel. And bitch, this is a fun game because I'm going to name 3 names, and out of those names, you're going to tell me who you would marry, who you want to Kai Kai, and whose shows you want to see get canceled.
All right, I'm here for it. Let's do this.
Okay, and I definitely was a shady bitch and did not make this easy for you. Now, speaking of, for round 1, we have the one and only Kimberly Michelle Westwood, the beautiful Angel Phoenix, and of course, the flawless Shade.
Okay. Well, first off, I would marry Flawless because how could you not want to spend your life with such a beautiful and kind-hearted person? Like, oh my goodness. Like, so I would definitely marry Flawless because like that's the kind of positivity and support that you need in your life. First of
Yes.
all. And then who would I what was it? Kai Kai or Cancel?
You have
Um
Kai Kai and Cancel left. Yes.
okay. I would and wait, and the other two were Angel and Kimberly, right?
Yes, Angel Phoenix and Kimberly Michelle Westwood.
Okay. Well, everybody else be Cancel and Angel, and I just don't agree with that. So me and her, I know that Angel is a good time gal. Let me tell you what, I know Angel knows how to have a good time, so we're gonna Kai Kai. We are gonna Kai Kai. Let me tell you straight up, I would love you, Angel, and I'm gonna cancel Kimberly
Well,
because
someone had to, right?
after all those fucking pictures, absolutely cancel Kimberly.
Yes. Well, let's go into round 2, where we get some of the girls that you actually came up with within the drag scene, starting with, of course, Bougie Cherry. Number 2, Kwanzaa Shade. And then, of course, just to make it really hard, the one and only Baby Moore.
Ooh, okay. Okay, well, we're gonna cancel Bougie just because she needs to be canceled. She needs to be stopped. Let's just start there.
Oh my goodness.
And I would marry Kwanzaa because she's a Leo and she knows how to keep me in check. I definitely need that. And I guess I would kai with Baby because why the hell not? Baby is so beautiful. Like, how could you not want to hit that? I mean, oh my goodness.
I mean, I would probably even hit that in drag. I mean, bitch, she is beautiful in drag. I'm like,
Isn't that what a kai kai is though? Aren't we like doing it in drag? Like,
well, technically a kai kai is when two drag queens have sex in drag, but to me,
honey,
it's
I prefer to do it in drag, sweetie. I mean, this is a performance, so we're gonna get up in there.
yes. Well, perfect. I have one more for you, and this is more of your funny girls of Portland that I'm going to make you pick from, starting with the one and only Darcel favorite, Syra St. James, the bitch that everyone likes to pick on, the one and only Shima, and of course, the funny bitch herself, Valerie DeVille.
Ooh, this is a hard one because like I love all of those people so much. Like so much. I would okay. I would probably okay. This is you got me good here, sis. All right. Um well, okay. I would Kai Kai with Syra because I mean, why not? Why not? Syra's beautiful. So let's just start there. I'm gonna Kai Kai with Syra, and I would I would I would marry Shima for sure because like we're like the same. We're me and Shima are too much alike, and like she would just make me laugh all the time, and that's the kind of energy I'm looking for.
Oh,
Um, and the only reason I would cancel Valerie is because like she beat me in Elite Queen, so there's that. But on the subject of Valerie and Elite Queen though, I absolutely love Valerie DeVille because like the dynamic that she and I have together is like so tight. Like she was the hostess of the first drag competition I did, which was Dragathon. So that's kind of how I like got to know her. And then like a couple years later, me competing side by side with her at Elite Queen, and then being her runner up just was like it was such a cool experience for her to like oversee and like mentor me in one place, and then for us to be equal competitors in another place was really cool, and I love that bitch. And so when I say that I'm gonna cancel her, I say that with love.
aw, I love it. Such a sweet cancellation. Well, perfect. We have one last round, and then we're going to say our goodbyes to everyone. And I'll try to make sure this one's a little hard. And speaking of hard, we threw your drag mother in there. So starting with the one and only Diva Dots. And then we got Charisma Phoenix. And just to really fuck with you, Miss Anana.
Ooh, okay, okay. I would. All right, I know this one. I would probably, I would probably cancel Diva because like why not? I'm not gonna marry my mother, and I'm definitely not gonna kai kai with my mother because like just because I'm from Utah doesn't mean that I promote incest. All right.
Sure.
um, yeah, and then let me see. I would. What were the other two? Mary and Kai Kai, right?
Marion Kai Kai.
Okay, with the last two. Okay, I would probably, I'd probably Kai Kai with Anana and marry Charisma because Charisma is just funny as hell. And yeah, I wouldn't want to Kai Kai with Charisma because we're too close, and I don't know about that. So I would marry her, and I would just I would absolutely Kai Kai Anana.
Yes, girl, you did it. I'm so happy that you didn't just finish Mary Kai Kai or Cancel, but you survived the entire interview of Bitch Talk with Bitchcock.
Woo!
Well, girl, thank you again for coming on the show and spilling so much tea. I mean, I really appreciated you coming here because you again have such a powerful and wonderful form of art that I really felt like we needed to bring you on the show and get your voice heard, bitch.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. And yeah, I'm happy to, provide a little entertainment and insight, for the people out there. So thank you for
Yes.
having me.
Of course. And for all you beautiful boys and girls and all of those in between watching, if you've enjoyed this fantastic episode of Bitch Talk with Bitchcock, I want you to peek down below within the description where you can find the PayPal, Venmo, and Cash App information for both me and the one and only Kiara. And this episode, I also want you to look down below so where you can find that information for Black Lives Matter, where you can donate and also get education. So
Yeah.
definitely make sure to look below. And Kiara, anything you want to say before we say goodbye to anyone?
Yeah, like I said, if you feel so inclined to donate today, just know that every dollar that I get into my Venmo will absolutely be going back into the community where it matters most. So please, if you feel inclined to do so, that's just where your money is going. All right, guys.
I love it, girl. And thank you again for coming on the show and making your voice heard, bitch. It was so important. I want all you beautiful people to tune in for this next episode of Bitch Talk with Bitchcock coming up this Wednesday, again, as we get the one and only, the sexy bitch herself, Miss Jessica Rabbit, for episode 34. And for all of you beautiful people, I just want to put a little announcement in here just to say I hope you are all staying safe and, just doing your best to survive this crazy world we're all living in right now. Again, you beautiful creature over there, thank you for coming on here. And all of you beautiful creatures, we will see you for the next episode coming up this Wednesday. So again, everyone, I love you, and we'll see you next time. Bye!